Hello, everyone, and welcome to Social Chats. This is episode number 37. My name is Heather, and my business partner, Catherine, is in Whistler, and she'll be the producer of today's show in the studio up in Whistler. I'm over at Saratoga Beach on Vancouver Island, and our guest is going to be joining us today is in Victoria, BC, and we're doing this via BeLive TV. It is live Facebook broadcasting, and every time you see me veer to what's going to be right for you, I'm actually looking on Instagram. Hello, Instagram. I'm going to give a wave there. We are shooting live on Instagram, and we are shooting live right here on Facebook. This is Social Chats, and Social Chats is a show that Catherine and I have passionately put together. And what we do is we go out and we look for people that are killing it in their industry, and we invite them to come and be on our show to share with you, the small business person, the keys to their success and how they're doing it. And today's guest is absolutely, I'm so excited to have Braden Wheatcroft with us today, and I'm going to bring him into the studio in just a minute. But first of all, let me ask you, if you think you would be a valuable guest on our show, we would love to hear from you. Also, if you think you might like to do your own live TV show here on Facebook or on Instagram with IGTV, then reach out to Catherine and I, because that's our business. We love to help people. Now it is my absolute pleasure to bring into the studio today's guest. And we have Braden Wheatcroft with us today, all the way from Victoria, BC. And Brendan actually has his very own real estate show on Vancouver Island, and it's called Vancouver Island Real Estate Show. Brendan is also the Director of Business Development for RE/MAX Camosun and RE/MAX of Nanaimo, which, by the way, Braden, Catherine and I have done lots of work with RE/MAX of Nanaimo. Great company. As well, Braden is a business development coach with Richard Robbins. And if you're a real estate agent, that name's going to be very familiar to you. So welcome to the studio and welcome to Social Chats, Braden. It's great to have you here.
Wow, Heather, thank you so much for the introduction. That's
it's
amazing.
Our pleasure.
So happy to be here. I'm glad. That sounds like, did my grandma write that for you? It sounds an awful like somebody. You miss out handsome and, so nice and all that stuff. No, I'm just kidding.
I forgot to tell everyone that you were in hair and makeup just 15 minutes ago.
Well, yeah, exactly. I just got out 15 minutes ago, but I've been in there for 3 hours.
Hey, you know what? You get those accolades, not just because someone wrote a script for you. You have those because of the work you've done, where you've been, the passion and the commitment that you make to your career in helping other real estate agents to be successful. Well, that's where that comes from.
That's very generous of you to say. Thank you. It's a quick side story. I don't know if you remember this or not, but I actually sat in one of your courses I couldn't find the date this morning. I was looking for it. But it might have been 2011, 2012, and you were teaching a Facebook for Beginners course at RE/MAX in Nanaimo when I was a realtor there. And I remember being like, this Facebook thing, I don't think anyone's going to do business with it. Like I was not an early adopter of using social media for business. I've pivoted in the last few years and really focused on it as a platform for growing business and communication and whatnot. But yeah, you were there very, very early. So good for you for staying with it and, moving the bar up.
Yeah, no, that it's my passion too, just like your passion. Braden, would you mind taking our viewers on a little bit of a journey about how you've ended up where you are today?
Yeah, for sure. How far do you want me to go back?
Well, you might as well start 9 years ago when you got your license.
Sounds good. Yeah. So I came from a retail sales background. I'd worked in commission-based sales actually since I was 15 years old, if you can believe that. And I got recruited into the real estate industry in 2008, 2009 by my still real estate mentor, Charlie Parker. He owns a number of brokerages on the island. And I worked in his team for 5.5 years. It was an amazing experience. I worked my way up from being a buyer's agent to being an associate partner on the team where I was able to work with buyers and sellers. And then over time, I actually accidentally found myself in a management role, specifically as a trainer. And, I get asked all the time, like, how did you end up in training or management? Like, don't you miss selling real estate? And honestly, it happened by accident. I'll spare you all the details, but here's what I could tell you is in a day where as a realtor, I had buyer showings, a listing appointment, and a training session, I was most fired up to go and do the training session. So I followed that passion and that interest. And before I knew it, became the business director, the director of business development for 6 offices on the island, and have been doing that now for 3 years.
Holy crow, what a journey. And you guys over on Instagram, if you really want to see what's going on here live on Facebook, then you just need to pop over to Keep It Simple social media on Facebook, where we're doing a live interview with Braden Wheatcroft, who's about to share with everyone the secrets to launching a successful real estate career. Wow. Is there a secret?
You ready for this? There is a secret. The secret is, no, that was just a clickbaity headline to get people on here to watch the show. I got nothing else to talk about. No, I'm just kidding. No, so I have to say, I'm really proud to be a realtor. I'm really proud of the work that we do. I think as real estate professionals, we are community builders. We meet people at a very critical juncture in their life, whether it's, they're getting married or they're getting divorced or they're having kids or their kids are moving out or they're buying their first home or they're becoming an investor. Like, the work that we do is really remarkable. And yet, in spite of that, I do have, being a front line in a real estate brokerage, I have so many conversations over a given month with people who are, as they like to say, getting my real estate license. As a sidebar, I always like to laugh. Like, when I talk to people, real estate always seems like the plan B for everybody. I'm gonna go and sell like sweaters with cats, in Christmas stuff, and if that doesn't work out, I'll get my real estate license. So I have a lot of these conversations, and I think it's really important to, first of all, understand what a career in real estate is actually like. And so I know your audience is a lot of agents, but there's also, I understand you do business with other businesses and people who are thinking getting into real estate. Is that right?
Well, 100%. And I was thinking this morning, when I was out for my run this morning, I was thinking about my interview with Braden, how excited I was. And I was thinking, it doesn't matter if you're in real estate or what your career is. There's some simple process and not so simple processes that you need to go through. And I believe that's what you're about to share with everyone, is that process.
That's a great nudge.
I'm going to give you the full screen, and I'm going to step out in the back. And remember, Instagram, if you want to listen to Braden and ask him questions yourself, you could join us over on Facebook. I want to say hi to the people that are here right now. Hi, Pip. Great to see you. And Derek, nice to have you here as well. And over on Facebook, we got a few people hanging out with us. We're live here on Facebook, and I'm going to say, Braden, we're ready for those secrets.
Okay, well, I'm going to share with you a very quick story. About 3 years ago, a colleague of mine in Nanaimo, Jim Olson was his name, he retired after 35 years in the business. And of course, you can't let someone walk out the door with 3 decades of experience without trying to siphon it all out. So I had lunch with Jim and his then business partner, Tony. And I asked him a lot of questions, but one of the things that he said to me that was really the most insightful thing, and I remember it, I can hear him saying it right now, is he said, the thing about real estate after 35 years that's just as true today as it was back then is it's not complicated. It's just hard work. And if realtors stopped trying to make it so darn complicated, they'd probably be a lot more successful. Now, that's a pretty high level piece of advice, and it's not, the most tangible thing, but I think as a grounding concept or principle, it's really important for us to keep that in mind. So, when I think of a real estate career and getting a strong start, the thing I always want to make sure people are aware when they get into the business is when you get a real estate license, you actually get 2 very different job descriptions at the same time. Okay. The first job description is trading services. That's what we go to school for. That's what we get the license for. This is, writing good contracts, negotiating, managing our clients' risk, understanding the bylaws, like all of the stuff that goes into the service side of the business. And frankly, that is why I think 9 out of 10 people get into this industry, because they want to help people. They want to serve. They want to do a good job. Unfortunately, if they don't consider the second job description, they might not be in the business very long. So we have the job description of trading services, the craft, the practitionership of all that, the profession. But then we have the business, the job description of being a business owner. And that's, everything from business planning, lead generation, follow-up, sales, marketing, time management, financial management. These are a lot of the skills that they don't teach you in the course. And I find a lot of agents, when they get licensed in this business, they don't have a clear grasp on what do they need to do to actually drive their business forward. And I'll give you a quick example. You could be the best negotiator. You could be, know all the hipster coffee shops where everyone likes to hang out. You could, know where all the best schools are, understand the bylaws. You know what the tree cutting bylaw is in every neighborhood, all of that stuff. And yet, if you don't have a client to apply that against, you're out of business. Every day in this industry, we wake up unemployed, and it's our next job. It's our job to get out there and find our next employer. So from my perspective, the secret to a strong start is simply using a formula that was well documented in a book called The 4 Disciplines of Execution. I'm not sure if you heard of that one, Heather. 4DX.
Yes, I have. Yeah.
It's an incredibly boring book. It's very dry, but very, very powerful if you can get through it. And so what we've been able to do in our company is take the principle, the 330 pages of the 4DX model, and turn it into a one sheet. Well, it's a bit of a lie. It's actually one piece of paper that's double-sided. So there's 2 sides to our one sheet. And what it does is it actually breaks down the 330 pages of the 4DX into one sheet. And so what I'd love to share with your audience today, if I may, are the 4 ingredients that go into actually executing on your business plan. How's that sound?
That sounds excellent. Now, Braden, you also are a strategic planner for the RE/MAX, for both RE/MAX Camosun and Nanaimo. Is that also a really strong, that's just having a plan, but to be a strategic planner. How did you get that on your job title?
Well, probably because I wrote it in there. But other than that, we're a very collaborative organization. So, I would be lying if I said that I was the strategic planner. It's just, for me, strategy is something that I really enjoy. I always have. Whether it's playing board games, whether it's playing Monopoly or it's playing sports, having a strategy is good. But I want to actually do a bit of a reframe, because we talk a lot about planning and business planning, and I think that's a good place to start. But unfortunately, that's where many people actually finish. You've probably done this before. You've done business planning where, you write a great plan, it looks awesome, you're pumped about it, and then you put it on the shelf, and then 350 days later, you pull it off the shelf to see whether or not you actually hit your goal. And some of them you've hit, some of them you haven't, but it's really not an actionable process. Is that fair to say?
Mm-hmm. Most definitely.
So what I want to actually introduce is not a business plan, but an execution plan, or as I like to call it, because the word execution, I don't know, sometimes it's overplayed and whatnot, as I like to call it, an achievement plan. Because really, isn't that what we're here to do in the first place?
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Achieve our goal. So the 4DX model is very simple, okay? The first step in the process is, what's your breakthrough goal? And I'm going to circle back to these in a second. We'll do a bit of a deep dive into each of them. So what's your breakthrough goal, okay? What are the action steps you need to take to achieve it? When are you going to actually do it? So this is the time management side. And lastly, do you have some accountability to help you along the way? So let's break down those bit by bit. And Heather, I don't know if you have questions as we go, or you just want me to keep blabbing away.
I would like you just to keep going. I'm taking notes
okay.
of everything you're saying. Right. I was in real estate for 25 years and I was a managing broker for the last 16. So I love everything you're saying, and I'm so happy you're willing to share it with everyone that's listening in. So you go for it.
Okay, so breakthrough goal. What the heck are you doing this all for? I want to talk about, I think it's really easy when we think of goals. We talk about financial goals, and I think they're important to have. It's one of the easiest things to measure. It's hard to measure fulfillment and it's hard to measure happiness. I wish we could, because if we could, that would be a lot more fun. Because really, for me, the net of all of this is, are you happy or not? But for simplicity's sake, we want to set a financial target. Now, I want to make you work a little bit harder on that financial target by introducing a concept called lifestyle design. If you've ever heard of Tim Ferriss, 4-Hour Work Week, Tribe of Mentors, he talks a lot about lifestyle design. So, my motivation is not to help people make a whole pile of money and be miserable in the process. I want to help people figure out what it is that makes them happy. What do they enjoy doing? Who do they enjoy spending time with? What are their hobbies? What are their interests? And then actually figure out what is the price associated with living that lifestyle, and then using that as a target to point their business at. Does that make sense?
I love that. What is the price for you to live that life? That's great.
Absolutely. I mean, I think this business can be very challenging, like many businesses. And if you don't enjoy the process and you're not enjoying the day-to-day, it's very hard to have staying power. I mean, being unhappy for 10 years so that you can, make $1 million and then retire and buy an island or something like that. I mean, that just doesn't sound like a lot of fun to me. So why not have a lot of fun, or at least as much fun as possible for 10 years and then buy that island, right?
Yeah.
That's actually what our realtors do every day in our office, is we sell Vancouver Island. So you can actually buy a little piece of an island if you want to. So figure out what it is, what makes you happy. What do you enjoy doing? Monetize that, come up with a price tag, then use that as your target. That's your breakthrough goal. And the 4DX talks about using a simple formula of, you want to go from X to Y by when. So from $0 on January 1st to say $100,000 on December 31st. And now you have a target that you can go from. The next step is figuring out what are those actions that are more leading indicators of success. See, a lot of us track our business, but we're tracking what we like to call our lag indicators, things that are already happened past tense, right? Deals and dollars. And so what I want to encourage people to do is, you want to track those lag indicators because they're going to give you an indication of whether or not you're on the right track. But it's really, really critical for you to actually start focusing on what are the action steps that you need to take to get there. Now, I know you have a diverse audience, Heather, but a lot of people who are in sales type roles, the best leading indicator that I've found over the years is appointments. Richard Robbins, one of my mentors, has taught me about this in their goal setting simplified process, where you want to track your number of appointments. A salesperson or anyone in a sales type role, we can predict the success or the failure of their business based on how many appointments do they or do they not have on their calendar. So for example, let's just say your goal is to go from 0 to 100,000 by the end of the year, from X to Y by when. That's your breakthrough goal. The next step is, how many appointments do I need in order to actually accomplish that? That then becomes your weekly focus, right? I often say to our first year agents that once you set your goal, you almost want to forget about it a little bit and become hyper focused on your actions that you need to take. Because if we focus on the long range goal, it can sometimes be discouraging because it takes a while to start seeing the needle move. If we can focus on things that are in our control, number of calls we make, number of tweets we send, number of DMs we send to people on Instagram, number of open houses, like what are those actionable things that you have control over? That's what should be made up in your action plan. And ideally you want to create what we call a scorecard, which is just a simple, I say I'm going to do X number of calls. Did I do them? I said I was going to do number of open houses. Did I do them? Because at the end of the day, if you're talking with me as your coach and you say, hey, I said I was going to make 10 calls and I was going to do 3 open houses and I was going to go to 2 networking events and I did none of them. Heather, do you think that person is on target to hit their goal?
Absolutely not. And the neat thing about what you're saying right now, Braden, is you don't have to be brand new in real estate. Let's say that you've been in real estate for 10 years, 15 years, and you're stale. It's just not happening. Things have changed a lot. Go back to the basics. Do exactly what you're talking about right now. Yeah. And accountability is a huge thing.
Oh, hold on. We're going to get to accountability. That's step 4. Okay. We're now moving to step 3. So step 1 is, what's your breakthrough goal? Step 2 is, what are the actions that are going to move the needle on that breakthrough goal? And step 3 is the time management. Here's another quote that I've heard Richard Robbins share so many times that really resonates with me is, it's not the time you put in that matters. It's what you put into the time. right? So it's not the time that you put in, it's what you actually do in the time. So for example, I know a lot of agents who work an 8-hour day, but between playing Minesweeper, 3 trips to Starbucks, watching YouTube videos and making maybe a couple calls, they really have effectively worked a couple hours, right? So what we want to do is we want to take the stuff from step 2, those 2 or 3 actions, and we want to move them into our calendar. This is where time blocking is so critical, is that, we want to do the most important things first. So for example, in my own business, I've always used 9:30 to 11 traditionally as my lead generation and lead follow-up time. I work on my business in the mornings, and then I work in my business in the afternoons. I've just recently started using a scheduling app called Calendly, and there's lots of other options out there. And I've customized my availability around afternoons only. So you cannot book me in the morning using this app, because I only give you the window in the afternoon. So I drive all my appointments into the afternoon, and I work on all my sales and marketing in the morning. And for me, that just keeps me focused, and I know exactly what I need to do when I need to do it. So the time management piece is absolutely key. You're going to take your 2 or 3 action steps from step 2. You're going to drive them into your calendar in terms of time blocking, whether you use Google Calendar or Outlook. You want to put those as reoccurring appointments, because I guarantee you, if you don't put them in there, the probability of you actually following through and doing it is very low. Wouldn't you agree?
100%.
Yeah.
I love
there's a
that.
reason that you and I showed up at 11:30 for this broadcast, right? Because we scheduled it in our calendar.
And there's a reason you have a show, because you keep doing show after show after show, because you schedule it and you go out and do it.
Absolutely. Okay, so the last step is accountability, as you were alluding to earlier. So accountability can come in all shapes and sizes, okay? And some people I think of them as like unicorns, but I know of them. Actually, my spouse, Mandy, is one of these people, is that they're self-accountable. Like, they are just really good at setting their own expectations and following through and being consistent. Me, on the other hand, I'm like the exact opposite. I need accountability, external accountability. Now, a lot of people, like I would say the gold standard in accountability is hiring a coach. Obviously, that's going to be someone who's going to not just keep you accountable, but also help you predict roadblocks, maybe remove some of those roadblocks, help you, strategize and whatnot. But hiring a coach isn't attainable for everybody, because it does come at, a $500 to $1,000 a month price tag, or even more in some cases. So if you're not there yet, don't be discouraged, because another way that you can get accountability is partnering up with someone in your office. Right? If you have another agent in your office, whether they're new or not, as Heather said, 15-year-old veteran who's maybe staled out in their business, this can become a very, very applicable thing. The accountability ideally would be weekly, and it's very, very simple. I'm going to give you the script. Are you ready?
Yes.
Okay. Heather, you said last week you were going to do X. How did you make out? And here's the cool thing. Okay.
I got sidetracked.
Fair enough. So regardless of whether you say, yeah, I crushed it, I said 10, I did 10, or I just missed the mark, I did 5, but I was supposed to do 10, or you say, oh, I knocked it out of the park, I did 20 and I was only supposed to do 10. My line of questioning is going to be exactly the same. Great. What did you learn? What did you learn? So, for example, let's use open houses. So you say, I'm going to build my business through doing open houses. I'm going to do 4 a weekend, pretty ambitious. And I see you next week and I say, Heather, how did you make it? You say, I only got 1. Okay, great. What did you learn? Well, I learned that I should probably book them before Friday. Otherwise, the likelihood of me doing 4 is not going to be very high. Great. How are you going to apply that insight next week? And then you go, well, I'm going to plan them on Monday instead. Fantastic. Let's say you end up doing 4 out of 4, and I'll say, great, Heather, what did you learn? You go, I learned that if I don't have a sign-in sheet, I'm not going to get any leads. Great. That's a good insight. What are you going to do differently next week? Yeah. Oh, I'm going to have a sign-in sheet. And see, this is what I love about this methodology is, unlike a business plan, this is real-time feedback. You're actually making micro improvements, 1% improvements, the Kaizen way, bit by bit every week, so that you're taking what you're learning as you go and you're applying it to the next week. Does that make sense?
100%. That's right.
So we have a breakout goal. Then we have, here are the actions that we need to take to do it. Then we have, here's when I'm going to take those actions, time blocking. And then I'm going to create some cadence of accountability to make sure that I stay to my plan. And again, accountability can be a colleague in your office. It could be your spouse at home. It could be your managing broker. Or it could be, as I say, a coach, someone that you hire professionally to hold you accountable. And that, Heather, is simply the 4 steps. As Jim Olson say, it's not complicated. It's just hard work, because it is hard work. And this is a model that we've been able to use with our first-year agents to really get them off to have a really strong start.
It's so important. I am a firm believer of everything you just talked about, because life gets in the way. Life gets in the way. And if it's not written down and if it's not measured, then you don't know if you're succeeding or not. And quite frankly, as a managing broker who's depending upon my new agents doing sales, we need to know how they're going to do that. And that comes down to, I'm not a manager anymore, but that came down to creating a budget for running the office. Where's the money coming from? And so it's all little tiny steps broken down, and that new agent or that existing agent implementing those steps time after time after time, creating their own success. Wow. It's brilliant. And you shared it with everyone.
Well, but wait, there's more, Heather. Are you ready for this? If anyone is interested in receiving a copy of that one sheet that I referenced, just send me a message on Instagram, reach out on Facebook, send me an email, whatever. Connect me however you want to connect, and I'd be happy to share you that PDF. And as I say, when you look at it, you're going to go, holy smokes, this is so simple. Is this really effective? Heather, I can tell you that we have agents in our organization using this methodology that are first-year agents all the way up to big-time producers, because it's effective. And that is ultimately the most important thing, is it being effective, right? Like Tim Ferriss talks about the difference between efficiency and effectiveness. He says efficiency is doing things well, but just because you do it well doesn't mean that it's important, right? Effectiveness is doing the right things. And this process allows you to focus on what are the 1 to 3 right things. Everything else is just a distraction. In the book, they call it a whirlwind, and just execute on that and then do everything else. Yeah.
Time tried and true.
So speaking of effective, we managed to do this in 28 minutes. High five.
That's right. You are a professional. You're passionate and you rock things, because that is all in your heart that you're sharing. I think that everyone that tunes in now or is watching the replay is going to be extremely appreciative of the things that you shared. You're right. It's not complicated. The model for Catherine and our business is keep it simple. And that philosophy throughout life, but you still have to do the work. You still have to get up and go to work.
You still have to put in the time.
That's right. It's just what you do with your time that's going to make the difference in your success model.
You were listening.
You bet I was. I told you I was taking notes.
Awesome.
And we want that sheet. And Braden, we want you to come back on our show again. I thank you from the bottom of my heart. And
thank you.
It's wonderful to watch the success that you're having with your career and with the agents that you work with. Once again, thank you very much for joining us on Social Chats. And this was episode number 37. If you're watching us live, thank you very much for joining in. If you're watching the replay, we truly appreciate it. Brendan, I'm just going to say goodbye to the audience, and I'll be back in the studio in the back end with you just shortly.
Awesome. And Heather, before we sign off, I just want to say thank you. And thank you to everyone who watched and for their attention. You know, the one thing I would say about this industry that's always amazing to me is how willing people are to share with each other. So, you know, any success I've had isn't my own. It's simply been a product of all the great people I've been able to learn from. So thank you. And I'm just happy to pay it forward.
Awesome. You're wonderful. Thank you very much, Braden. Well, everyone, that is episode 37, all wrapped up and done. We are very excited about next week's show. Catherine's going to start the marketing on that shortly. We are honored that Braden Wheatcroft joined us today. We're going to put all his contact information in the comment section. And don't forget to reach out to him and ask him for that cheat sheet, so to say, that he was talking about. This was a wonderful show. I learned a lot from it. I'm looking forward to turning this into a blog, uploading it onto YouTube, and getting as much stretch out of our marketing as we can, not only for KISS Media, but also for Braden and his business. Once again, everyone, this is Social Chats. We hope that you have a fabulous day.